the left of the stage, up the stairs, will take you out the back of the building, out the back of the council chambers to your right. Those stairs will take you out the front of the building, just past that on the right is the men's facility, up the stairs to the left is the ladies' facility. Please do not use the elevator in time of emergency.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to minutes, move that the minutes of the February seventh, 2023 executive session meeting held pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, section 42-6-5A1 personnel to discuss and act upon authorization and application of an accidental disability retirement, Joseph R. Carlton. The employee having been advised in writing of his right to have this matter acted on in open session, and to interview Ken Souza, Joan Penswick, June Carlton, Gail Dwyer, and Jean Verity for public appointment, reappointment to the town board or commission, be approved as recorded and sealed.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, move that the minutes of the February seventh, 2023 open session meeting be approved as recorded.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider, discuss, and act upon the following possible appointments and reappointments. Juvenile hearing board appointment with a term expiring in September 2023. This is for June. Oh,
Move passage.
I'm sorry, this is for Gail Dwyer.
Mr. President, I move that we appoint Gail Dwyer as alternate on the Juvenile Hearing Board for a term expiring in September of 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Item B, Juvenile Hearing Board reappointment with a term expiring in September of 2025.
Mr. President, I move that we reappoint June Carlton to the Juvenile Hearing Board for a term expiring in September of 2025.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, Budget and Financial Review Board reappointment with a term expiring in January of 2028.
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council reappoint Ken Souza to the Budget and Financial Review Board for a term expiring in January of 2028.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, Housing Authority reappointment with a term expiring in January of 2028.
Mr. President, I move that the Town Council reappoint Joan Penswick to the Housing Authority for a term expiring in January of 2028.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And item E, Water Supply Board Advisory Commission reappointment with a term expiring in December of 2025.
Mr. President, I move that the Town Council reappoint Jean Verity to the Water Supply Advisory Board Commission for a term expiring in December of 2025.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to public hearings. Item 8A, continue a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act upon approving the renewal of one intoxicating beverage license as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, and a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation. And this is for Copperfields Inc., DBA Copperfields Bar and Grill, 9 Cedar Swamp Road, approved for outdoor bar service. And this hearing is still open. Everything's in order, right?
Yes.
Hello,
Hi, Attorney Stephanie DeMayo for Copperfields,
if you don't mind stating your address as well, appreciate that.
478 Broadway, Providence, Rhode Island, 02909.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Menefee, owner of Copperfields, 903 Providence Place, Providence, Rhode Island, 02902.
How you doing?
Thank you. So,
And Jay Nixon
Jay.
Acosta, attorney at law, 899 Warren Avenue, East Providence, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
so I know that this was on last week. None of us were, I wasn't aware anyway. So now that we're here, I believe that the board, the town council had some questions regarding this renewal. Is that correct?
I think they're all set now, right?
Okay.
Everything's in order and ready to be approved.
All right, great. That's awesome. That's the only, trying to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Now, just so the board knows, I was never notified.
Yeah.
It-
1 second. I'm trying to do.
If it's.
We'll speak with our client, so he's all set for now. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? This is a public hearing. Any questions from the council? Or we close it, then ask questions?
No question, here, close the public hearing.
Hearing no questions, we'll close the public hearing. Discussion from the council. Everything's all set.
I just have a question. He was not to serve alcohol until tonight, until we approve this?
Correct.
Have you been serving alcohols?
Not since we received a letter.
Not today?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion, right? Is there a motion on the table?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the renewal of the intoxicating beverage license of Copperfields Inc., DBA Copperfields Bar and Grill, 9 Cedar Swamp Road. Also approved for outdoor bar service as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, and a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very
council
much.
members. Very nice to see you all.
Moving on to licenses. Consider discuss and act upon approving the renewal of 3 mobile food truck licenses as listed as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances. These include Pelagi's 2008 DBA Pelagi's ice cream to sell only frozen lemonade and ice cream from a truck with RI Reg 109950, 55 Bacon Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Rhode Island Kona LLC DBA Rhode Island Kona Ice to sell only frozen from a truck with Rhode Island Reg 21700, 4 Cider Lane, Smithfield, Rhode Island. And Stephanie Sebring DBA Flip Flops Lobster Cut. To sell lobster rolls from a truck. I don't know why that's funny. With a reg 50 Oregon, is that Oregon? Registration 508959 25 Cherry Street, North Providence, Rhode Island.
Move passage.
Seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consider discuss and act upon approving the renewal of 2 vigilant only licenses as applied, as listed as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances. These include the Level 10 Nutrition Club, LLC, DBA, the Level 10 Nutrition Club, 10C Cedar Swamp Road, and the Savigny Group, LLC, DBA Smithfield Fitness, 970 Douglas Pike.
Move passage.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
What's that?
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item C, consider discuss and act upon approving a new vitrilling only license for Smithfield Foods LLC DBA Sonic Drive-In, 393 Putnam Pike, with the hours of operation to be Monday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
Move passage.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, to consider discuss and act upon approving a new vitrulating only license for Plant City X Bryant. LLC DBA Plant City X Bryant, 1150 Douglas Pike, with the hours of operation to be Monday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. President, I just had a quick question on this.
Sure.
Plant City, is this going to be, I know it's located on Bryant's, campus. Is this open to the public or is this only for Bryant students?
Just state your name and address, please.
Kim Anderson under Plant City and Plant City X on Barrington, Rhode Island, 170 Adams Point Road.
Hi.
Hi, Ingalisa Samir. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs and the Dean of Student at Bryant. I'm at 1160 Douglas Pike on campus.
Thank you.
And this is not for off campus. This is for students and admin only.
Thank you.
Is this
Too bad.
is this where Domino's was? No.
This is where Ronzio's was.
Bronzio's, okay, all right.
Used to be.
Yeah.
I know exactly.
Where it used to be.
Well, it sounds exciting.
Is it on campus?
great.
Or is it across the street?
On campus. Oh, it's on.
Oh, it's
It's
on.
on
campus.
campus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In one of the residential.
Any more
Great.
discussion?
Second.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, old business, we have none. New business, consider, discuss and act upon potential next steps concerning a recent amendment to Rhode Island General Laws, Chapter 3-5 entitled Licenses Generally. You want to explain?
Sure.
So the matter before the council, this was brought to our attention, from the speaker, kind of make a decision what the town is doing, concerning the additional liquor license that was provided to the town of Smithfield. So at that point, speaking with the council members, it was decided to put this matter before the council, to have possible options of asking the General Assembly to repeal, the Rhode Island General Law 3-5-16 subset, D, or to proceed and create a process, which will come back before the council at a later point to see about, how to properly issue that additional license. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the reasoning behind it.
And this was back in 2020 in April. The council then supported it 4-0 to present it to show support.
Correct. Resolution was passed and sent to the speaker and the Senate president at that time.
And that was for them to adopt an additional license.
Correct. Sir.
I was looking at the statute, the state statute. It makes no sense really because, we would be entitled to more licenses if we have less people. Because once you go over the 20,000 resident number, which we are over, you're only entitled to one license per 6,000 people. If you're under 20,000, you're entitled to one license per 4,000 people. So if we're under 20, we'd be entitled to 5. Because we're over 20, we're only entitled to 4. However, so that is, so now the General Assembly gave us an extra one because there was going to be someone had applied, had needed one or applied for one. But now it's just hanging out there and the speaker has indicated that they want it back. But he's also indicated that if another one is necessary, we could apply again for it. That's my understanding of the situation.
So you're exactly correct about the issues with the calculation, and that was part of the reason for the conversation at the time. There was actually a part of a development in town that was looking to add on a high-end establishment at that point, and that was the need at the point. And upon issuance, we received an application right following the signature of the governor. So that we hadn't done an application at that point before we even had a process to come up with a process because it was passed. So at that point, the town council tabled the issuance of that license to know if with no end date to that. And so that's another piece of this at some point. If we create a process we'll have to.
Well, are there any applicants at this point?
There is the one applicant that applied. I know others wanted to, and Lynn can state more of that. I'm not sure. Lynn can tell you.
How would somebody apply for a license? They don't even know the criteria of what we're looking for.
Well, see, it's not a common situation that people have a license available to issue. So that's why there was never a process here. I think they were just issued at a point, and I'm not sure, someone that has more of the history of the actual licenses, but in the other communities, it's usually just transferred because they're at their max and so forth.
Would you like to speak? Yes, please. No problem. State your name and address.
Hi, council members. Nicholas Feedy Jr., 10 Sawmill Court, East Grange, Rhode Island, 02818. I represent all the independent liquor retailers in the state. I'm the director of the Rhode Island Liquor Operators Collaborative, and also I am a retailer. All my friends, the retailers, are back there too. Say hi, guys. So these statutes exist because in the 60s, many municipalities overissued licenses. When you go through towns like Newport, cities like Newport, Pawtucket, Providence, they have actually overissued the 1 in 6,000 quota. Now, when we talk about that 20,000 person threshold, the spirit of that threshold was for rural communities, because the statute also says that towns under that threshold may issue 2 licenses without limit. In fact, Barrington didn't have any licenses until 10 years ago. So in rural communities, to limit drunk driving, they lowered that threshold to 1 in 4,000. Smithfield, thankfully, is increasing their population base. There, it's a growing community, and it is 27.8 square miles, 5 by 5. We looked at that map over there, and each quadrant of Smithfield is serviced by an off-premise liquor store. And Smithfield would not be able to issue another license until they reach the threshold of 24,000, correct? So, I'm sorry, 30,000, correct. So in the spirit of lowering DUIs, public safety, limiting access to alcohol, it would be prudent to not issue this license and send it back to the state. Any questions?
Thank you.
30,000
30,000.
per the old ordinance, per the old,
Based on the statute, we would have to hit 30,000 in order to be
the
eligible.
new one.
Correct.
Well, the part of it that was added was specific for the town. That piece was not amended for the quantity. So at 30,000, as it stands now, we could issue a fifth because of the addition to the statute. The calculation, if that piece of the statute was removed, revert back to have to hit 30,000 residents in order to be eligible for another one.
But wasn't there an attempt back in 2020 to pull back the license in the General Assembly by Senator Ashenbolt? I believe there was an article in the newspaper about that.
That was my understanding. It was tough to get materials during that time. So I'm not too sure.
They never came before the council.
No, it did not come before the council.
And may I add one thing? During the 2020 session, our organization was in flux, and we weren't even informed by really anyone that this was even going on, because we would have testified during that time against this and would have had to explain this the very same way. To do business in 2020 and the 21 sessions, even the beginning of the 22 sessions. It was very hard to go testify at the State House and really have your voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, if I could read something into the record, in regards to that article that Vice President Ionati was speaking of. So this is from the Valley Breeze from August 12th, 2020. Says Archambault seeks to overturn liquor license. Responding to concerns, residents' complaints, Senator Stephen Archambault said he would submitted legislation to overturn a recently enacted law to grant Smithfield an additional Class A liquor store license. The new bill was submitted last Friday, August 7th, and removes wording from the state law approved June 26th. Archambault said he submitted the legislation in the Rhode Island Senate in conjunction with the town manager, Randy Rossi, and the town council after the council passed a resolution requesting the bill in April. Rossi said that he heard concerns from liquor store owners after the original bill passed as well, and said he understands why Archambault submitted the bill last week. I am not opposed one way or another, he said. Archambault said it's part of his responsibility to sponsor legislation requested by Smithfield. I introduced the original legislation on the town's behalf and vetted it through the normal committee process, he said in the news release. The bill does not grant the license, he said, and gives the town permission to issue the additional license. The law allows Smithfield a fifth liquor license regardless of population. Population typically dictates the number of available licenses. Under state law, Smithfield is allowed 4 Class A liquor store licenses for a population of 21,000. Archambault said he heard from several constituents who said issuing another license could negatively impact the 4 liquor stores in Smithfield during trying financial times. I felt after the investigation and concern raised by liquor store owners, I felt the town did not need another liquor store license right now, Archambault said. Archambault denies any knowledge of the license background or any intention to grant it directly to a resident without an open application process. My understanding was that it was going to create an additional license. I was not aware of giving it to anyone, he said. He said it is his job to make sure things are fundamentally fair, and he did not believe the legislation fit the bill. At the August 4th council meeting, a resolution to grant the town's 5th liquor license to resident and businessman Richard Conti was tabled by Councilor Dina Serra. Conti proposed to create the Northern Rhode Island Liquor Warehouse at 970 Douglas Pike. Serra questioned the process of awarding liquor licenses and requested that the council hold off on granting it without allowing an open application process. Town Council President Susie Alba said she did not have a comment on Archambault's decision to reverse the legislation. Archambault said he requested that the council table any further motions to grant the additional license, and he agrees with the recent decision to do so. He said once Smithfield reaches the correct population figures, he will support another liquor store license in town. House Majority Leader Representative Joseph Shikarchi of District 23 first introduced the bill to the House of Reps on February 12th. Shikarchi said he does not feel the legislation to overturn the law is necessary, as all it did was enable the town to issue an additional Class A liquor store license. However, he said if the legislation to overturn the additional license comes to the House, it will get full consideration. If the town doesn't want to issue a license, it doesn't have to. It's entirely up to the town, he said. Thank you.
So, Mr. President, if I may, I agree with Vice President Ionati. The law as it's written, the state law, it's not conclusive to doing the right thing. So with that being said, I'm going to make a motion that the Smithfield Town Council develop a process to issue the additional Class A liquor license created under Rhode Island General Laws 3-5-16D.
Second.
Further discussion?
It's a discussion on the motion.
Well, I think that.
Someone else wants to speak?
I'd like to hear more people. too.
This is
I'd like to hear
not a
more.
public hearing.
Well, I'd like to hear what the people have to say, number one, which we traditionally do, regardless of whether it is a public hearing. And secondly, I think that, if this license is just hanging out there and it's upsetting people and people are concerned about drunk driving in the town, et cetera. I don't see any problem with just sending it back. And if we need another one, then we'll apply for it, for an extra one.
Agreed.
And then, I don't think we're gonna reach 30,000 people anytime soon, but maybe we have enough liquor stores now anyway. I mean, I don't wanna assume that we do or don't.
You go up to the podium.
Name and.
Norberto Alvarado, 149 Mountaindale Road, Smithfield, Rhode Island. I'm former owner of B&C Liquor in Smithfield. And at the time that this whole thing had come up, we were kind of blindsided by it as owners. Obviously, Nick just made their motion to you guys on behalf of the liquor board. But I think you guys also need to be made aware of current legislation at the state level that's attempting to bring wine and beer sales into convenience stores, grocery stores, and markets. If that passes, I mean, this whole license is null and void. Because you're gonna have everybody in town applying for licenses. So I mean, with that, I would just table the whole thing and say we don't need it and see what happens at the state level. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony, if we do develop a process, does that mean we don't have to issue a license? Just that we have a process?
You'll have a process. It's up to this council to decide whether you're gonna vote tonight to repeal. Send a resolution to the General Assembly asking them to repeal the existing statutory provision granting Smithfield an additional liquor license, or alternatively, keep the existing license, basically develop a process pursuant to the existing statutory section that's obviously transparent and vetted, so you can vet everything in a public, open and transparent manner. It's up to this council. You're the licensing board. You can set whatever standards you would like.
And would there be work sessions or any?
You can have that. You can have a work session if that's the road that this council decides to go. You can have a work session and decide what type of process you would like.
So this isn't issuing a fifth, this is just developing a process.
Correct. But there's a motion on the table right now, and there was a second. Is a discussion in that motion?
Well, I think we've had some discussion.
Yeah, and
here,
additional
and,
discussion.
basically, a need hasn't really been shown to me that we need this extra license, so I would just send it back. And that's what the speaker seemed to want. If we're not going to issue the license, then we should send it back. It shouldn't be just left hanging out there. Regardless of the fact that the law makes no sense. I mean, we have a lot of laws like that, unfortunately, but
Did Senator Archibald send it back? Did he attempt to, or was it?
I have no idea.
No,
No?
oh, well, from this article, it looks like he attempted to, but in the Senate.
Mr. President, he submitted the legislation to the Senate in conjunction with the town manager and the town council after the council passed a resolution requesting the bill in April.
Okay.
And that was 2020.
And there was no vote on that? Would that be
Sure.
something we?
Timing though. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I think that's talking about the original legislation.
right.
That was supported by myself and the council. The resolution that went forward, the town council never put a resolution forward for the rescinding.
Yeah, it says his new bill was submitted in August, removes the wording from the state law that was approved June 26th.
He did that after. So what happened was initially the council passed a resolution supporting legislation that would authorize a fifth license. And then later on, 5 or 6 months later, after the legislation passed, I think that's what Senator Archambault was referencing.
Okay. So the council back in 2020 voted unanimous to support.
Originally, yes.
Okay.
But at that time, we had a live applicant.
Mhm.
And we had a proposal to construct something and open up a liquor store or something like that.
So just to confirm, that typically doesn't happen. Someone would apply before we're granted another excuse me, before they approve a fifth liquor license. Usually happens after that we decide to approve another license. Correct. So it's the manner that in which it was done is an issue as well.
So it starts all over again. If we develop a process, everybody has to go through the process.
Just to give the insight, so there was a Senate bill that was introduced on July 16, 2020 by Senator Archibald to eliminate the provision from the statute.
Yeah, but they'll already have a session.
Correct. No, I
Kenneth Souza, 2 Williams Road, Smithfield, Rhode Island. Thank you for the vote a little while ago. I'm proud to serve. I'm going to come at it from a different angle than this. And for those of you who were on the council the last time around, you'll remember this talk. I'm going to put aside all the legal rambling and the politics of it at all levels. Here's what I'm most concerned about: the location. It's a mess on Route 7 and 40 and 150, 106, sorry. I traveled down there a lot. I came down and during the summer, it was about 8 o'clock. It was just becoming dusk. 2 kids, probably 8 years old, darted out in front of our car, right between the hotel and where Laura's is. You have a number of people, and you know what I'm going to talk about, that are in the hotels in that area, walking down, and they're walking to the plaza, of course, but that's a different environment. That's a different store. There is a safety problem. I'm telling you, with the Route 7 corridor, I've talked about this on the EDC. I've talked about it with this. This council needs to be careful. I don't want to read the paper one day and find out somebody got killed and so on. People are jaywalking. There's no sidewalks. There are young people going from 1150. I've seen it walking down Route 7, and that's even more dangerous and less well lit. And the curbing, or whatever you want to call it, is much narrower there. We had a young lady, I was there, died when she was jogging there. Some of you are old enough to remember Kristen Hatch. Let's be careful. The license is one thing. The location is really important. And you're thinking of putting a whole bunch of stuff across the street, a medical building. And the other reason is traffic. You're putting another transactional business. You have a couple of restaurants in there, so they're going to stay a little longer. The gym. No, I understand. That's why I'm coming at it, Council. I understand. That's why I'm separating the issue. I'm separating the issue. I just think location is everything. It's location, location, location. And the traffic in and out of that plaza, you cannot, now that Fidelity is back fully online or fully remote in-house, traffic has gotten much, much worse there. I'm just coming at it. That's why I said at the beginning, I'm coming at it from a different angle. Whether or not this gets put or rescinded, that's a different issue. I think if it is pushed forward, we're going to be much more. I spoke out very, very, very loudly about the location of that before it was even put there. And I was kind of dismayed when I saw the sign there when it was starting to be built. I'm like, why are we doing this? So that's all I need to say, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes.
The issue mainly that we have is, it's not a Smithfield issue. It's a presidential issue around the state. Other communities will try to have similar types of legislation passed at state level. And it's just not a good thing for our communities. And the original applicant for this license does have a license in town now. But they purchased a store, and the need for that license has been quelled with that individual. Thank you.
Yeah, but hang on one second. We have to develop a process. So that individual is out right now. Everyone is going to have to follow the process that we put in place in order to apply for the license. So that argument is off the table.
Okay.
Why would we develop a process when it's, say we meet the different population requirements 5 years down the road? Why would we develop a process now when we don't really have to.
Well, I think what Councilman Tassoni is saying, that we only develop a process if we decide to keep this
Correct.
extra license.
Okay.
So our choice is, we're going to develop a process if we keep the extra license, or we're gonna just send this authority for the fifth license back to the General Assembly for rescission.
Which having the process, we still do not have to issue the license.
Correct.
Correct.
Ultimately, it's up to this council to.
Or any council.
Where any council to decide when and if a license is going to get issued.
Okay.
Would that open up for other people to apply for the license? Mm-hmm.
But they have to follow the process that we put in place to apply.
Which won't happen anytime soon because we have to have a work session and. Yeah. Okay. There is a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The motion carries. Item B, consider discuss and act upon approving uncollectible motor vehicle and tangible tax abatements for tax years 2008 through 2012 in the amount of $277,079.27.
Thank you, Council President. I'm glad you said that instead of me. So based on the state statute for the statute of limitations on motor vehicle and tangible taxes is 10 years. Once 10 years is complete, they become uncollectible and aren't able to have any further legal action or any type of collection activity on them. So these accounts, unfortunately, due to throughout COVID and everything, we didn't end up bringing these abatements before the council before. So that's why there's some additional years there. But we're looking to try to abate all the years back, including to the ones that just expired last year. So we're looking for the tangible and motor vehicle from 2008 to 2012.
A lot of these are businesses that just didn't survive. It looks like 2 pages worth.
It's a lot of them are. That's tangible taxes is one of the most difficult things to collect, and a lot of that is just assets and going out of business, unfortunately.
Okay.
Move passage.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is public comment. If anyone from the public would like to speak, come up to the podium.
Good evening, council members. My name is Al Costantino, 16 Totem Pole Trail, Smithfield. I'm here as a resident and also as a taxpayer. I'm here tonight to speak about the fire station. So, I have I want to reference what I have to say with 3 remarks prior to this, starting this, and it won't take long. The first is, some may know, some may not, that my son bid on this proposed fire station 7116. And there was talk that I was, disenchanted with how it went and so forth, or that sour grapes. That's not the case. In fact, the property's been sold. So I'm not here trying to move this to my son's property. The property was just sold about 6 weeks ago. The second remark is that I've been in town since 1954, and I've seen a lot. And I've always said, I've said it before at other meetings, it doesn't mean anything as far as rights go, because somebody that moved into town a second ago has the same rights as someone that's been here for 1 generation, 2 generations, or a family of 3 generations. However, through the years, I would see things happen, and someone would say, well, it didn't happen on my watch. It happened with the prior council. It happened with the prior administrator. It happened in the past. So, but the present council has a difficult responsibility of correcting and improving things that were done wrong. You have that obligation. You have a fiduciary duty to do that. But so it comes and goes. People on the council and something happened 12 years ago. Well, it wasn't me. But the taxpayer is always the same billfold, and that doesn't go away. And the third preface is, what I have to say is no reflection upon the fire department, the administration of the fire department, the fire chief. It's not about that. So let me just start a history of the fire station, 70116. A long time ago, the corner where Navigan is was dedicated by the St. Arch family fire station. They own quite a bit of land on that corner, and they gave the corner to the town to put a fire station. Gave it to them. Well, years went by. The town never did anything. Not for a couple of years, but many, many, many years. And the St. Arches got aggravated because the town didn't do that. Navigan came by, wanted to buy the St. Arch property, and they needed the corner. I believe there was a claim by the St. Arches with the town over this. And what happened was, to resolve this whole thing, the town gave the land back so the deal would work and received $400,000. And I've asked a long time ago and asked today, and no, we'll probably have the answer. What happened to the $400,000? I can tell you what should have happened. At that time, when they got the $400,000, which was many, many years ago, the town should have bought another piece of property for the fire station. So that went out the window. And then in 2002, there was a fire station bond by the voters. It was approved by the voters, and no action was taken. It's my recollection that the bond was drawn from, and we're paying interest on it each year. Still no fire station, and that ended, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He did it. So anyways, in 2018, there's another bond for fire station. So we had $400,000. We had a bond in 2002, 2018, another bond for 4.5 million, not to exceed 4.5 million. And here we are 20 years later. So that's the history. But I want to go back to 2019. So I got to stop for a second. I have a lot of pride in this town. When I do something, I don't expect anything in return. I never did. It's not about money. And that's why I worked like an animal on those lights down at Whipple Field and building the basketball courts. So it's never been about money or donating the granite for the front steps because it's the best granite steps. It's my pride. You're born with no money, you die with no money. So I had a lot of pride in when this RFP came out in 2019. And it wasn't my land. It was my daughter's land. She sold it to my son, Thomas, and it was his land. But I wanted to put the best bid proposal package together for the town because I knew that was the best location for the fire station. So they opened the bid on April 12, 2019. There was only two bidders. My son's bid was the lowest bid. And going back to 2015 and 2016, on February 2nd, 2016, there was the consultant's report. I believe it cost $15,000, the Kramer and Associates report. It was approved in February 2nd, 2016, which identified the 7116 as the best location for the fire station. The best. And I have it right here. I never spoke to these people, but my son's property is in the presentation, a $15,000 report of an excellent location for the fire station. Then on another page, it targets 7 and 116. Because at that intersection, you could get on Route 7 and you could get on 116 from the same possible property. So, as I said before, I wanted to put together the best available, the best available presentation to the town. And we went beyond the expectations. For example, there was engineers stamp plans, a biologist report, the drainage calculations and site plans for the fire station, including DEM approval. Now, this property that you bought, the road here, all you got was wetlands delineation, which means nothing. That's just saying they agree where the flags are. But this plan see this in red? This is the stamp by DEM that this property was ready to put a shovel in the ground the next day. Whether I did it, you did it, or anybody did it, it was a proof set of plans to start the job. And it's a serious value to that. And by the way, it needs Army Corps of Engineers approval. Because somehow Army Corps of Engineers has their teeth in all DM approvals in the state of Rhode Island. And I got that. And these plans are ready to go out to bid for site work. Soil and erosion, the type of retention basins, the type of structures you need. This was complete to start the job. It was ready to put a shovel in the ground. But I just gave credit to the town manager about he stopped that interest from being paid on the bond. But now, after these bids were open, time goes by, don't hear anything. There was only 2 bids. And I went to his office one day. I said, have you looked at the plans, the bid package by my son? He said, no. So I asked Carlin to bring it over. And I explained to him and showed him all the engineering that was done and the DM approval. And I asked him what he thought this was worth, and he said $2,000. It was in excess of $25,000. So, and then there was no more. But I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. When it comes to land, I don't make them. I do my homework, and I'm going to show you right now. So, in the RFP, on page 2 of 12, number 11, I'm going to quote it because I don't know who was on the committee that read the RFP, but I'm going to quote it. The town reserves the right to negotiate the purchase price and other terms with the selected bidder in a manner not prejudicial to fair competition. Well, my son was the low bidder. I had the ability to do the site work, lower the price, to build a fire station. Never got a letter, nothing. Because as far as I'm concerned, the town ran away from this proposal by my son, ran away fast. I'm going to get into that deeply. But it talks here about the selected bidder in a manner not prejudicial to fair competition. Well, after they ran away quickly, they ran into someone and wound up buying the pieces now without any solicitation. And I know the town has the right to do that, but the point is, it wasn't competitive. So I'll wait till the end for that. So I see where the town buys this piece of property on 116. That's where his property is. Right away, I get on the phone and I do my due diligence. I know the people who own that property. I know the people who own the property next to it. So I called up the abutter, who's cramped for space and has a business. And I said, I don't understand. How did the town wind up this property? How come you never bought it? He says, the property has too many problems. I won't go near it. This was with the phone call. And it was a history of a former property owner having all that land and putting a building up away from the corner because of the same issues of why the person next door didn't want to buy it. Property's got too many problems. It's not a good, it's an unsuitable site. So I did that with the phone call. But you know what? I was right. You know how, but to prove I was right, this town went out and got a bid on the site package, $3 million. On August 5th, 2022. So whether you pay 285,000, 500,000, 100,000, somebody gave it to you. If you got a site package, a bid package of a bid of $3 million to do the site work before you put a cubic yard of concrete, you know you got the wrong piece of property. So you just sent out for bids, and you got the bid of $10,123,000 and one of $8,727,000. When the bond that's in place is for $4.5 million. I believe that the site restraints on the property, that you wouldn't have been able to put the same size fire station as you were going to do on 7116. So I put this together for the town. It wasn't about whether my son owned it, he owned it, anybody else owned it. It was the best site, and I felt like I put the best presentation together. So I got approval from DOT to do a wetland study of their property, and I had to put a bond up and signed off on it because the town at one time said they wanted both parcels. I had the 2 state reps from Smithfield meet with DOT, and I expected to have the town trying to put together meetings with Rhode Island Economic Development, the governor's office, anybody and everybody to see what could be done to get the corner besides my son's property. And I always said, I'm a taxpayer. If you take the corner, you'll take my son's property. I don't have a problem with that. Well, there was never an effort by the town to get the corner. Never. Because when you get a letter and somebody says, we want this much money for it, it's just a letter. But when you sit down and you put your best foot forward and you negotiate with the art of persuasion, you get things done. The person for the state couldn't believe that the town gave up their rights prior to the auction to get involved in that property because the town had to. So we were out the door a long time ago, my son, because whatever, I'm outspoken, maybe disdain for me, but the people that made this decision had an obligation to the taxpayers, a fiduciary duty to the taxpayers, and also for the safety of getting that up in the best suitable site and to save money to take that land, and they did not. I don't know why the town wasn't at the auction. Because if the town wasn't, see, it's just life and just being streetwise. If the town was at the auction, I would have been at the auction. You get that? I'm here for the town. So with that bond of 4.5 million, and for what should have been on the corner of 7116, we now got a burden of over $10 million to the taxpayers. It just doesn't make any sense. And you had all the, when I say you, I'm just talking the town council at the time. You had the most expensive, best available piece of property in that area, the salt storage bond. And there was people interested in that property that had property right around it. You were able to spend a lot of effort to buy that $285,000 piece of property that no one else wanted, especially the next door neighbor. You didn't have problems dealing with that. And you could have easily gotten that, you could have easily gotten the fire station on another corner. Because the salt pond property was so desirable by a few, you could have horse traded and put one in your pocket. And that didn't happen. So when this was all done, and the town ran away from my son's offer, all I wanted as a taxpayer and a resident of the town of Smithfield was that you would have a good site for less money than you would have had his site. Because that's what I was told. The deal didn't work. The deal could have easily worked. I would have had the resources to put a lease on that, to do whatever you wanted to do. A lease, payment so much a year. My son didn't even get a letter. You follow me? Didn't even get a letter. And that's why sometimes people don't bid in this town. If anybody wants to know in private how you could have wound up with that, with another location, 7116, because you were the source spawn, I'd be glad to tell you. It's just glaring. You had a full house against a pier, and you didn't use it. So I feel that you should sell that land now. And I'm going to tell you why. And if you sell it for less than you get into it, you're still saving the taxpayers a lot of money. Do you understand that? You're going to be saving the taxpayers a lot of money. Take your losses and get rid of it. Because this has turned out to be the second fool's folly, the Tascasian and gravel bank that you bought, that the town bought for $2 million, and you can't use it for anything. And we're stuck with it. But you're not stuck with this. Now, the reason why you should sell it is because you're up to $10 million right now. And when it's all said and done, and you put that fire station there, the traffic's backed all the way up the hill every day, and it's only going to get worse. And it's not the best location. So if you want to start, if you think you're going to go get another bond and get $6, $7, $8 million, you can get a site that's so close to pad ready because the property's up there in that format that it's not a fool's folly. It would be the right thing to do. And, it's tough to do the right thing. This was handled wrong. This was handled wrong from when you got the $400,000 from St. Arch to straighten that mess out. When you sat on the 2002 bond, and when you didn't take that property on George Washington Highway in 70116. And I expect the town council to do the right thing, because this is nuts. You got a $4.5 million bond on the table. And as soon as you got the bid for $3 million for site work, you knew you had a problem, which I knew the day I made a phone call, which you had an obligation to do. You do your due diligence to find out about the piece of property. And there's ways of getting other property in that area, good property, because it seems clearly now that you want to spend more money. But that report's interesting by the Kramer people. And a fire station should be built for the next 50, 75, 100 years. And it's in the wrong location. And you're just wasting too much money. So don't keep on digging the hole deeper. To get out of the hole, don't keep on digging the hole deeper. And that's what's been going on here. I'm not bitter. I could see what was coming down the pike as far as when we didn't even get a letter of acknowledgement. All the effort put into doing way above and beyond what the specifications called for, so you can be shovel ready and start the job the next day. Right? Didn't even get. I knew what was going on here. I didn't come in yesterday's suitcase, you know. But I'm just asking you now to do the right thing. You're spending money, you're spending soft costs daily on this project since you bought the property. For nothing. Anybody with any sense of site work or anything, there's got to be a reason why the butter who needs more land and has the money to buy it, and he's got a business, won't buy it. He told me, look, that there's too many problems with it. It's sad. It's really sad. That's all. Thank you.
Any more public comment?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.